Alrighty, we are live. Alexis, thank you so much for joining me.
My absolute pleasure. My absolute
So,
pleasure.
yeah, it's been a great week chatting to you all about tint and having you on board because selecting paint colors is such a popular question that people always ask. How do you actually pick colors? What is going to be good for my home? So I thought, why not actually have you on board and get the experts in. So we have someone to ask all these questions to. So thank you.
Pleasure. Pleasure.
Now, when I was on Instagram, I reckon earlier this year, I came across Tint and just love the branding is what caught my eye and love the look because it was very different to what's out there at the moment.
Yeah.
And I'd love for you to explain just a little bit more about the company and what sets you apart from all the other paint companies at the moment.
Yeah, well, it's a great question. I guess I think we just wanted to do things differently. Like there's a lot of things in the way that we've always bought paint as customers that
Yeah.
is just stringent and not necessarily directed towards the customer's convenience. So we really focus on how can we make this easier for people, and that's why we do things like have a smaller color range. We have our season 1 is 70 colors and they're perfectly selected colors. They're great. They're on trend. So it's just very simplified. It's just to make it easy. We do matte paint, so we keep it really simple because that's what's on trend right now. That's what's working for people. So I think we just wanted to, play in a different space, look at how we could break the mold, especially, and how we could put the customer first.
Yeah, and it really shows that because it's more geared towards the consumer and the homeowner rather than the painter and the builder. So that it makes it so much more easier to be involved and learn more about the brand. So yeah.
Yeah, and we actually have both sides. So we have Tint Pro as well, which is more geared to making life easier for our professional painters and giving them access to tools that can help their customers. So if someone is using a professional painter, we're still highly accessible. But yeah, we're also here for people that are doing it themselves as well. So we really wanted to be across both of those things.
And another thing that really caught my eye was the paint swatches, the little stickers that you've got. Yeah. Do you want to let everyone know what they're about? Like that's
very so good. So they're basically they're like sticky contact, like they're like a decal. So you can peel them, stick them on your wall, and then take them down and this corner tab stays on there. So you go, great, I've looked at it in my bedroom now, I want to look at it in my kitchen. You can peel it off. And the consistency is really there with finish. So we have them stuck around kind of secretly in the warehouse so that you're like, oh, there's actually a sample there. So you really can't tell them apart aside from the writing. But that's been one of our really big points of difference because you're not getting out a messy paint pot. If we do have 1 litre tins if someone really loves that format, but we've just found this so much easier because you really can move it around easily, and I just love them because they're stickers.
Yeah, so cool. Better than buying little paint tins or the little sort of cards. So, and it's so handy because it's so important to trial the different paint colors in different areas. Like you said, the sun and shade can make colors appear very differently different times of the day and different rooms too, I guess.
Yeah, and for professionals as well and DIYers who love mood boarding, they're so good for mood boarding. You can lay it down with your fixtures and finishes. So it really gives you a really good sense of what you're going to have in the end product.
Great. And so do you think the first step is for someone to go online and order a few samples and then order the paint that they want from there?
Yeah, look, that's one way to go about it. We have a couple of different things. So part of my role at Tint is we offer free colour consultations. So if anyone ever needs any help, they can get in contact with me and touch base with me. People who have, bigger projects might have an interior designer on like yourself, and then they can, discuss. And I think it's always good to, a lot of people start with what's the colour Whereas I love to start with what's the mood, what's
Yeah.
I'm, as I said, a mood boarder, and I think that's a great way to start. So some people have a concept in mind and then they'll order samples, and other people will order some samples and just see what they're vibing on. So it's really, really flexible in terms of the consumer and what they might want.
Perfect. No, sounds really, really easy. So let's get into a couple of questions, which is more about, selecting colours. And we're chatting this week about that some people are quite scared, or especially, people in Australia. We tend, in Melbourne especially, we love our greys and our whites and very monochrome. But how can we introduce colour? And are there some tips on how to do that without going crazy?
I think 100% people are definitely scared of color, and there's one thing they're often really worried about, and they're worried that a dark color will make their room feel smaller. Which is just such a myth. I think the experience you have in a room comes down to a few of those things that you mentioned before, like the light, but I also think it comes down to the usage. So I like to, again, go back to the look and feel that I would like to have. And from there, explore what sort of colors will work in the room in terms of the light. And then I like to go, well, what are some of the great, colors we can play with that are in this look? And then it doesn't seem so daunting, whereas I think a lot of people do it in sort of the opposite order. But I think in terms of getting more playful with color, it's really great to get inspiration from different sources. Like look at what other people are doing, but also look at what artists are doing, looking at what nature's doing, things like that. And really not limiting ourselves in terms of what we perceive will be safe, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And I think when you do draw on inspiration from nature, like you said, and art, it's quite timeless, isn't it? Like you can never, it's not going to come and go like trends. And that's what, it's hard to try and educate people that you don't worry about what's happening with the trends. It's great to know what's happening, but doesn't necessarily mean you have to, pick what's out there at the moment. If there's another color that's not on trend, go for it. If it suits your personality and, like you said, the mood that you want to create, that's so important.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting, the trend thing. Like, there's a trend coming through that's called the personalization trend, and it's like, I love that because I'm very like, I don't move with the times necessarily, but I think it's really interesting for people who don't necessarily know how to express themselves in that way to really trust themselves and go, well, I like this. And then go, how can I make it look great? This is what I love. And then how can I bring that all together? Because it really is about, unifying and putting a good palette together a lot of the time. I think actually the artwork behind me by Anya Brock is a really good example because it's gorgeous, isn't it? I'm so sad I've got all these reflections on it. But
you can still see it. Yep.
But she's put together a beautiful palette there. And I think that's the great thing about artists. They have such good eyes. And, a lot of people wouldn't think to put this beautiful sort of honey beige white with these two different blues, but it just comes together so beautifully.
It works.
It really does. I love it. So, I think it's you've got to trust what you like and then have someone with a really good eye help you bring it all together.
Yeah, just help finesse that because lots of people know what they like. It's just how to bring that together. And that's where we can come in and help with that.
Yes, and a lot of people like several different looks and they have to narrow down sometimes. a little bit.
I mean, when we're talking about all the introducing color, I mean, paint is the place to experiment it with because it's so easy to change if you want to change your mind over the years. So it's expensive and easy to do.
And you asked me an easy way to do that before, and I didn't answer you because I'm a total chatterbox and I went off subject.
Oh, good.
But a really easy way to do that is, 1/2 and 3/4 walls. I mean, it's so low risk.
Yes.
You really don't need a lot of paint to make it happen. So they're inexpensive. And I think, that's a really good place to dabble with the sort of darker, brighter, bolder colors that are a lot of fun. And if you don't like it next year, you can change it.
Change it, absolutely. And it works in lots of great contemporary and traditional style homes as well. So Yeah, awesome.
Definitely. Yeah.
Love it. I'll just check on in and see if there's any questions so far before we move on to the next topic. But next is, yeah, let's maybe chat about a few different looks that are out at the moment, or how to create different, what am I trying to say? Sorry. How do we put together some color palettes within a few different design styles, and what do you recommend?
Yeah, well, one that I'm hearing like every other day at the moment is Hamptons style. And I'm renowned for preferring it to be called modern coastal, because I think, Hamptons has a lot of those classic sort of period silhouettes, which are absolutely stunning. But I think here in Australia, there's some beautiful examples of how we do it slightly differently, slightly more modern. And I think that's a gorgeous palette. It's really kind of reflective of the Hamptons palette. So I tend to use in that palette So Fresh and So Clean. I'm going to try and pop this together for you whilst talking, which is incredibly difficult.
There we go.
But I use So Fresh and So Clean, which is this beautiful one here. It's a beautiful fresh white, but it's clean and it's bright, but it's not super chilly. So I love that one. Okay. And then I bring in the sand tones with Fika. I have this in my bathroom.
Oh, it's lovely. Is it a sandy sort of colour, is it?
Yeah, it's kind of sandy. It's hard to give you true comparison in this light change, but it's a bit of a chameleon. It'll change on you. It sometimes has this, it's just very warm. It has this soft warmness without being like muddy or, yeah. So I absolutely adore Fika. I have it in my bathroom. And then Inner Self is the next one, which is this beautiful pale dusty green.
Lovely.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful blue-green. Like this just, it can go Scandi, but I love it in this kind of coastal palette. And she's really stunning because she'll do really well in like a bedroom or a bathroom, just give a bit of extra flavor without having, for those people that are a little bit intimidated by the deeper colors, it's absolutely beautiful. I probably shouldn't gender her, but it just is a habit. And then we have Drop Bear, which I'll just find in here, but really so many of the greys, Head in the Clouds.
Yeah.
Another beautiful sort of soft grey. And then I love having a deep dark colour in there, and I usually use Do Not Disturb, which I've just stumbled upon.
Yep.
This is one of my favourites.
Ooh. Now that's very sort of coastal and Hamptons, isn't it?
Yeah.
Lovely.
And so it's a beautiful deep navy, but it isn't too chilly. It's really well balanced. And I just love having that in. Here's one of them, I think. Oh, it's that jungle look. That's a bit green on the Hamptons side, but I'll find Drop Bear shortly, I'm sure. Or even Torpedo. Torpedo will work as an example. It's a really great, it's sort of a bit more, it's a greyish.
Yeah.
So it's a bit more on the beige side if you wanted a bit more on the grey side, Head in the Clouds or Drop Bear. And all together, they're just absolutely stunning. And you could really like throw them around. And they're just
So with those 4 or 5 colours you've got, you can create, an entire colour scheme for your home.
And it would really be cohesive throughout the whole house. Like you don't have to worry. You just sort of go, well, this room feels a bit cooler. I'll go with Fika. This room feels very bright. I'll go with yourself. I want this room to speak. I want the furniture to speak for itself. I'll go for So Fresh and So Clean. So it's really a breeze. I love it.
And like you said, I love that. You don't have to paint the entire house one colour. I think if you find your colour palette first, and then figure out which rooms need more colour and which ones need to be toned down a bit. I love that because it'll still look cohesive, and you'll still walk through each room and see that theme, but know that it has its own little story. That's awesome. Well, that's a nice way to think of that.
Yeah, and at least like if you form a palette early and the palette works with as well the period of your home or the kind of vibe you're trying to create, you know that it's covered. You've got it covered.
Love it. Yeah. Before we go on to the next theme, Sharon wants to know, do you find people are afraid to go for a bold colour because they worry about when they want to paint over it, it's going to be too difficult?
I actually haven't had that concern so far, but that's a really good concern, particularly for renters, I think.
Yeah.
Which, I think that can be a concern. So the easy way around that is, primer. Our primer is super like pigmented and nothing's getting through it. So if you do want to go for a super bold color, particularly in like a smaller area, like a half wall or 3/4 wall, then you can just, if you are leaving a rental or you want to change it, a coat of primer and you're basically back to square one, and then you just need your 2 coats as
easy.
and then easy done.
So primer is what you call your undercoat, and go back to that before you put your 2 coats on.
Yeah. So and we recommend using that, most of the time. The only time we don't is like if we've just literally painted and we're going to change it again because we want to take a different photo or something. It's great to use primer. When I painted the other rooms in my house that are this color, I use primer, and then it's just 2 coats. Like,
great.
And there was one room I didn't do it in, and our paint, I only needed, 2 coats and a bit of touch-ups, but with some other sort of brands, it's not as pigmented as our
okay.
paint. So I just do it because I don't want to have to be like, sitting in bed going, did I cover that properly? No.
Yeah. At least if you use the primer, you know it's going to be covered, and it'll still look good.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So let's talk about a couple of other color palettes you'd recommend, maybe for like a more contemporary style home.
So I love the Spice Tone palette at the moment.
Spice Tone. I love the names.
What? I thought these were like all shopped around names. But everyone had known them. But yeah, I love Spice Tone palette. To me, it sort of speaks of like the 70s coming through in a really beautiful modern way.
Yeah.
I love Dawn Patrol for the start of that. I love having that soft blushy tone in there because I just think it gives you a bit of reprieve if you do want to have a room be like if your usage is a bit softer. When I say usage, I mean like, which is something I go back to all the time, which is the usage of your room. So what is it going to be used for? Like a study, you might want a calmer color that works well on Zooms. Am I right?
That's what it's all about in 2020.
Yeah, all about the Zoom look these days. So yeah, I think that's really, really helpful. So I love having that lighter tone in there. I actually did a little video on Insta about these colors the other day, but I'll just go. I usually use old school. I've got samples everywhere now. But
like a deck of cards.
What's that?
Like a deck of cards, trying to find them.
Yeah. It's like 52 pickup all over again. I'll use. Here's old school. I picked her up. So that's old school there, and I have old school in my bedroom. Beautiful, just slightly warm. So against a pure white, you can tell, but otherwise it looks pretty white. So I love using that with Dawn Patrol, which is that one there. And then
lovely
Potter's Square, which is a beautiful terracotta. So
love that.
So beautiful. And this can do really well to warm up a chilly bedroom. Like people might get a bit daunted by that, but when you put it just behind the wall and you're behind your bed, it's so beautiful. And then going through to Batch Brew, which is a beautiful deep chocolate.
Lovely.
Is gorgeous. Doesn't get enough love, in my opinion. And then I like to pop a turmeric in there in our Pantone mustard. I'll find that in a minute. But I also love throwing a bit of a soft green in there. That's jungle look. So coming together, it just forms. I need that mustard to be really happy to sleep well tonight.
Yeah. Put it all together.
Quickly. Need to just spread them out. Here it is. So this one gets a lot of traction with, it's a great mustard yellow.
Yeah, nice.
Really beautiful, bit reminiscent of like honeycomb, but it's also
it's very warm
tree color as well. So a lot of fun. So altogether, they look absolutely stunning. A bit messy there, but you sort of get
that looks very cool.
It's super fun.
Love that. Yeah.
And look, even if you take a palette like this and go, well, I love Potter's Square for my bedroom, but I might accent with, turmeric linen or that kind of thing that really kind of helps you bring it together and maybe isn't as big a commitment.
And you can adapt.
Yeah. And when I put together a palette, it's always like, great. So you can use dribs and drabs. This could be a cushion, this could be a plant. It's really
Yeah. Or even you could paint like furniture and things like that with some of those colors. That's a great way to inject a little bit of color with not too much commitment, I guess.
Yes, it really is. And it's so fun to do. Like I love restoring little old pieces of furniture, and it's so much fun. And for that, I use our trim paint, just for that extra durability. But, you know, it's a great way to have a little fun with an old op shop piece or something.
Yeah, it's something quite unique and different.
Yes.
All right, Dylan has asked, thanks for this incredible workshop. Well, no problem, Dylan. I'm learning so much already. I'd love to know what Alexis would suggest for a Scandi colour palette, especially suggestions for a feature wall in a Scandi bedroom.
Yeah, I mean, again, I would always go back to what's your light like. If it's quite warm, I love Inner Self for Scandi. It's really beautiful, but I would just say just to go for that in a really warm, bright, sunny bedroom, because some of our blues, I don't like to be too negative about blues, but they can get a little bit, like all blues can get a little bit depressing if it's cold and dark. So,
okay.
And a lot of people,
it's a nice bright room.
Yeah, and they want to put them in because they're bright and soothing and calming, but they can, without that lovely light coming through, they can get a little bit sad. So I prefer to go for a warmer one. This is Hygge, which is
that's very Scandinavian, isn't it?
Very Scandinavian. So she's beautiful. She's coming up a bit mushroomy at the moment, but it's quite like pink.
A peachy sort of soft.
It's sort of like it's a soft dusty pink.
Lovely.
Erring on purple. It's got a tiny bit of blue in it. So it's a lovely warm option. And then again back to Dawn Patrol. Where Patrol's hiding over here. I love Dawn Patrol for that.
That's nice.
And I love putting Dawn Patrol with these greens for Scandi or Australia.
Very cool.
I think that's a really beautiful palette. And bedrooms, adult, baby, whichever.
Yeah.
And then again, you can always go back to your whites for Scandi. I mean, we are, you know, it is colour we're talking, you know, focusing on, I guess. You can always go back to So Fresh and So Clean, and those beautiful, I mean, even I would say to the cleaner whites for Scandi if it were me, but you can play in that zone as well. So
love it. All right. So we've gone through our coastal / Hamptons. We've gone for a contemporary. What's another sort of colour palette that you're working with lately?
I guess there's a lot of sort of mid-century modern still that's been a really big trend, and I just love it. Playing with this Pantone mustard again, and then bringing in, you know, maybe Potter's Square, and then popping in, where is this going to be? A bit of Alter Ego, which is our beautiful, we've got a couple of really beautiful deep teals. One's Alter Ego, and I'm just going to rustle it up for you.
Yeah, sure.
The other one is After Dark, which is so stunning. I absolutely love it. Where are they? And that palette, I mean, you can really add some of the brighter mid-century tones on top of that. So anything in that gradient, I don't know if people are across all that sort of colour.
Just whether we want to go lighter or darker within that same colour, I guess.
Yes.
And so can you do half and like quarter shades with particular some of these tint colours, or it's just, you know, this is the colour?
Do almost anything. So we can do halves on all our white bases and quarters. But what we tend to do when someone has something that they want specifically is and I'll just sidebar to this, even though I found the things, we tend to use our Pico, which is our little color tool, which is so much fun. If you're a really creative person, if you aren't, this is a great tool. So it basically works with your phone. It's this little guy. I'll put it against.
Okay.
If you have a house, rental, whichever, and you've damaged the wall, you need to repair it, and the paint is aged, so it's changed color, which has happened to me like literally just before we launched. And I was onto our CEO being like, when can I get this paint ready. And so you can just literally pop it on the wall and press the button and it'll pull that color for you.
Oh, great.
So I actually had to sit there with this previous color that I had on my other wall and hand mix it between a half and a quarter to get it back to that kind of patinaed finish, because the paint color was 7 years old, something like that. So it really had sun, people rubbing up against it, all these things that factor into the color of paint.
Yeah.
And I had to match it by eye just to repair it because I loved the color and didn't want to repaint it all.
Yeah.
So this little guy's great for that. And if you have something you adore, like this Anya Brock painting, print, I should say, you can pull a color from it. So any paint surface. So that's really handy if you're like, I love this color, but I would love it to be a bit lighter.
Yeah.
Also, our customer support person, Liam, he's on 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, but he is an excellent color matcher. So we can color match a lot of things.
Awesome.
With and without Pico, but Pico's really handy, and it's $79, but then you get a free can of paint if you purchase within 30 days. So
so pretty much for free. But that would work quite well actually for heritage listed homes. So I'm working with quite a few clients at the moment where they have to keep the facade quite original. And it's hard to try and colour match that burgundy that they've used on the gutters or that heritage green. So I imagine using that tool would be so easy to then pick up that colour and pop that on your colour schedule so you can send it all off to council and get it approved and get your painted.
And it's also great for the sentimental folks out there as well that are like, I want this to be the colour of my grandmother's jumper. Like, you can do it. But yeah, this is a lovely, fun mid-century palette, just going back to that.
Yeah.
I love playing with a group of these colours, and I've been doing it for a lot of clients I chat with in our colour consults. So I've got it here. I actually would generally add a few more to it, but this teal alter ego and Pantone mustard and Potter Square are usually my basis. And then I sometimes like to sort of, depending on what sort of space it is, I sometimes like to change that out just for Pantone Living Coral, just for a bit of fun, because I don't usually put them right next to each other.
Yeah, sure.
You know, you've got some sort of mid-walnut tones in your timber and things like that to break them up. So that's always a really great, I don't generally put them right on top of each other. Yeah. And then with one of my lovely clients who I just adore her space, I've actually been doing a little work with her, and we're sort of looking at this palette, just adding inner self in there.
That's nice. It really calms it down a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then you can even play with bringing Dawn Patrol or Settle. She's actually got a gorgeous kitchen that I was looking at this palette for, because she's got a lovely minty cabinet. And then so when you've got, you know, a sort of softer kitchen, and then over in the living area we might have a, you know, alter ego or Potter's Square.
Yeah.
So you can really play around in those zones. And again, it's all on the gradient, which again is from light to dark of the hue of the pure colour. So you can really, I mean, these ones together, I just love that.
That's really lovely.
I love it.
Very, very cool. Yeah. Could definitely see that, like in any sort of home, whether it's traditional, contemporary, or mid-century.
So beautiful. And I think too, like the you know, the After Dark is gorgeous. Sorry, the Alter Eco is gorgeous, but After Dark I just adore, which is a slightly darker version. Gorgeous.
Very cool. So if people are renovating their kitchens, I use a lot of 2-pack, and we can colour match any colour. Could we use some of these colours for kitchen cabinetry? Yes,
I believe so. I think this is another great, you stumped me a little bit, but I think we can just eco it.
True.
I'm not sure which way it works. Like, I know we can match 2-pack, but I don't know if it flips the other way around. I'm going to ask Liam that. Liam.
Sorry, I should have prepped you for that one, but
that's fine. But again, I'm sure we could. It's because I think with 2-pack,
you can colour match any colour.
Provide the paint. Yeah, we do. So we can.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Was there any other, so we've got our 3 different color palettes. Are they the ones that you'd recommend? Is there anything else, or would leave it at that without overcomplicating it?
I think leave it at that without overcomplicating it. But I guess just to tack on to the end, if you're feeling unsure or it's not coming together, like I think, you know, there's no shame in getting any help, whether it's from me or if, you know, yourself. I think it is really, like, I think a lot of people have this impression that they should be able to do it just naturally.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know about you, but I work pretty hard and it takes a lot to get used to being like, but, that'll work. So I don't think be afraid of asking for help or trying to match a look you've seen before. That you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time.
No. And I've said throughout lots of different workshops, and you've reiterated it here as well, is just start with a mood board.
Yes.
Draw on all that inspiration that you love. Let's see it all together, and then let's pick your color palette from there, because it's so hard picking a palette from thin air, I guess, you know, or, you know, referencing some as just having some inspiration first.
Yes. And one of the things I do when I mood board is I don't discriminate. So I go, I love that. I don't go, well, that doesn't go. When I look at it all together at the end, then I'll take things away. I don't try and like take things away at the start. And I think that's where people sometimes stumble, or they're like, and it's not an exact science when I mood board. I'm like, well, I love that color, but it's in a bedroom, not a lounge room. It doesn't matter. Pop it in there. You'll get the gist. And you'll start to see like things that carry through that you love. And I think the other thing is I'm very evocative with words. So I like to write down words that I want to feel when I
love that. The feeling, the mood. Yes. Yeah.
The smell, like everything. A space is about the complete experience. And if you know, and I think also the location. So a lot of people will be like, well, I love Spain, and, you know, they live in, you know, the coldest part of regional Victoria. It's like, you can love Spain on holidays. No.
Yes.
But I think it does, if you've got a gorgeous country cottage, you know, don't try and turn it into Spain. It can be a beautiful little country cottage. I think that location and the type of usage and those bones are really important.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm seeing a lot of that's just occurred to me is people who have reproduction homes. So for those that don't know that term, it's just when a builder will try and create a period home not in the period that it was built in.
Yes.
Might try and make a federation home like now.
Yes.
And that happened a lot through the 80s and 90s. And a lot of
huge.
Terracotta
brick and green.
And some people are a bit like, I've heard a lot of clients saying that they're going to take these reproduction period features off.
Yep.
And I can totally understand that. But I think too, and particularly with real period homes, a lot of people are trying to take period features off. And, you know, if you've got a gorgeous 70s house, I think just lean in. And if you've got a reproduction house and you've got some period features, maybe try and own them instead of lopping them off. I mean, it's definitely case by case in that sense, but I've had a lot of people who've had gorgeous 70s and 80s houses with beautiful window trims, door jambs in this lovely timber that we don't really use a lot anymore in builds because it's expensive.
Yes.
And they just want to paint them or things like that. And I just think it's sometimes great to go, well, I've got this gorgeous walnutty colored trim. How can I use a palette, like a spice tone palette, goes beautifully with those timbers. So as much as I should say, paint your trim.
Yeah.
Buy more paint. I
sometimes it's work with what you've got. Yeah. And some people think if you don't have a Victorian style home, there's no point keeping, you know, I guess if you've got a Victorian style home, they think, we've got to pay homage to that heritage. And then everything after Victorian era just, you know, squares at the corners, make everything all modern. But there are so many other different periods, you know, since that time that can look amazing. Like you said, like those timber architraves, it costs a fortune to do that now.
A fortune. And it costs a fortune to take them back to what they were as well. You know, and 10 years ago, people were squaring off archways, and now we're like, archways, miracle.
I know.
They're gorgeous. They're
Yeah.
soft. They're beautiful. So I think, yeah, it's great to honor what your home has to offer, I think. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And last thing, just to finish off, is let's hear from maybe some of your favorite colors. Like, what do you love using, even in your home, or you know?
Well, in my home, so we spoke about this a little earlier, that this color behind me is something I inherited,
Yeah.
and I'm actually out in regional Victoria in what looks like a converted barn, let's say.
Cute.
It's a new build, it's gorgeous. So it's a modern place, but I'm really trying to create sort of a very calm country vibe.
Yeah.
So I'm going for old school and Fika, and I'm really happy with that. So I have old school in all my living spaces except this room. This room hasn't been done.
Yeah.
And actually my lounge room's huge and it hasn't been done. But it's a different color. It's like soft lemony color.
Yeah.
That I inherited. And so I'm going for old school. And then last minute I popped Fika in my bathroom and I've never looked back.
Okay. That's that soft peachy color, was it?
No, Fika is let me just see if I can find it. It's that soft sandy almondy color.
Oh yes.
And I say almondy because it's such a chameleon, it really changes. But in terms of my favorite colors, I really love bold colors. And if I had a different property, I would probably be using those. And I might at some stage, I would love to do jungle look in my bathroom at some stage. Put a beautiful green tile in there. I'm just loving that. But I love Plum Intended. I just think no one's
moody.
Oh, so moody. And a lot of people are sort of, with chocolate and plum and a few of those ones that we got really mad at them in the 90s. And I don't think that was fair on them.
I think when feature walls were around, like in the 90s, like, yes, just paint that one wall in purple and another one in red. And now everyone's like, I don't want to see red.
I never want to see you again.
Yeah, that's the first thing people say to me when they engage me as an interior designer. Like, oh, I want some color, but like not red or anything. It's like, I haven't used red for a splashback or a wall since I've actually been an interior designer, I think.
Yeah. I mean, red, again, it comes down to usage, and we were talking a little bit about color psychology as well. And red has like a lot of things happening in it. So I would use red a little sparingly, but
little dash.
but yeah, my actual favorite color is Do Not Disturb.
Okay.
And when we join Tint, we get to choose an email signature color, and I wanted to choose Do Not Disturb, but I went with After Dark because I didn't want it to seem like I was on holiday.
Oh.
I didn't want it to be like, don't email me.
Yeah, because it has the name of the color at the bottom of your signature, doesn't it? Yeah.
So I can't find Do Not Disturb right at this very second, but I love Do Not Disturb, After Dark, Plum Intended.
Beautiful.
Potter's Square, Can't Go Past. Oh gosh. Inner Self. I actually, when I said I had my apartment and I had these colors, I had this in the bedroom. And it wasn't, I actually picked it out of like a huge book of other brands because it was, again, 7 years ago. Yeah. But I just love this color. So sophisticated.
Yeah, beautiful.
Really difficult to mess up with this beautiful color. So gorgeous. It just will, again, when it's a bit of a cooler room, lower light, south facing or east facing in the afternoons, we'll just play a little bluer rather than green. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. Perfect. Well, Alexis, thank you so much. That was, I loved it. Even I learned a few little tips and tricks, and I love the little colour palettes you put together for us. So thank you. Absolutely. Hope you have a lovely weekend being in regional Victoria. You get to go out and see the country. But in the country, we don't go out that much. Yeah. I feel bad for those Melburnians because I was in Melbourne in the first lockdown, so I'm sorry, y'all. Yeah. Anyway, we're going a little stir crazy, but anyway, all good. We'll get through. We will. Thank you again, and we'll definitely chat soon. Sounds good. See ya. Bye.